All right, so this is my week 21 NBA power rankings. Let's get started. Starting off with our injuries, I'll get out of the way here. But you guys can mainly look at this yourself. There's quite a bit of guys that are getting shut down for the season. It's not necessarily like a huge injury in some cases, but there's only like 15 games or so left, so it just makes sense to shut them down. But yeah, moving on from there, we have our top performances. Again, you guys can look at this yourself here. We got a lot of good performances going here this week. But moving on from there, we do have the Utah Jazz here at number 30. With a 15 seed, they've lost 10 straight games and went 0-4 this week, so it makes sense for them to be here at number 30. Next up is the Washington Wizards, who went 2-2 this week. They've actually been playing pretty decent these last few weeks, but I really can't move them up. They lost to the Pistons and the Blazers this week, and then they beat the Pistons and Nuggets, but they also lost Corey Kispert and Bilal Coulibaly to season-ending injuries. If those guys were still healthy, maybe I'd move them up a couple of spots. 28 is the 76ers here. They're now the 12 seed. They went 1-3 this week, lost to the Raptors, Pacers, and Rockets. Their only win was against the injury-riddled Mavericks, and they lost Paul George to a season-ending injury. Next up is the Charlotte Hornets. They went 1-2 this week. They lost to the Hawks and Clippers. They did beat the San Antonio Spurs, so that's something. But again, the Spurs pretty much injury riddled as well, with no Wemby and no De'Aaron Fox. 26 is the Brooklyn Nets, who went 1-3 this week. They moved down one spot. They lost Cam Thomas to a season-ending injury, their leading scorer, so obviously that's not great. They lost to the Cavs, Bulls, and Celtics, and they beat the Atlanta Hawks. Next up is the New Orleans Pelicans, who move up just one spot. They also went 1-3 this week, and they also lost one of their good players, Trey Murphy, to a season-ending injury. But I did flip-flop them here with the Nets because I think Zion Williamson is still going to be able to do enough to make this Pelicans team competitive, whereas the Nets, I feel like, are not really going to be competitive at all without Cam Thomas. Then we got the Dallas Mavericks coming in at 24. So they did go 0-3 this week, still the 10th seed, but I'll show the standings later in this video, and you'll kind of get a look at that more in depth. But the Mavericks are obviously not a very good team right now, very much injury riddled there. They lost to the Spurs, Rockets, and Sixers this week, and also Dante Exum is now out for the season. 23 is the San Antonio Spurs. They move up just one spot. 2-2 this week is fine. They beat the Mavericks and the Pelicans, and they lost to the Hornets and the Lakers. Next up is the Toronto Raptors at 22. They went 2-2 and also find themselves moving at one spot. They are the 11th seed right now, and they're pretty close to taking over that 10th spot if they can go on a run here. But they beat the Jazz and Sixers this week and lost to the Blazers and Suns. Then we got the Miami Heat, who went 0-4 this week and have now lost 8 straight games, sitting at the 9th seed, very much in jeopardy of losing their play-in spot, which would obviously be pretty disappointing for Miami Heat fans. They should be here 25-39. Obviously not 25 and 359. That's kind of too many games. But yeah, the Heat this week ended up losing to the Clippers, Celtics, Grizzlies, and Knicks. Then we got the Portland Trailblazers. We've been up 3 spots. We had a 2-1 week. Pretty good there for them. They played let's see if I can find them. They lost to the Knicks by 1 point in overtime, and then they beat the Raptors and the Wizards. Then we got the Atlanta Hawks at the 7th seed, moving down 2 spots here, went 1-2 this week. Not great. They lost to the Clippers and Nets, and they beat the Charlotte Hornets. Then we got the Chicago Bulls. They had a 2-1 week, and I'm going to move them up 1 spot here above the Atlanta Hawks. They're still the 10th seed right now, but they're not looking like the 10th best team in the Eastern Conference. I think they look a little bit better than that, but still not too great. This week they beat the Nets and the Jazz and lost to the Rockets. 17, we got the Orlando Magic. They went 2-1 this week, moving up 5 spots actually, mainly because they ended the Cavs' 16-game winning streak, so that's pretty impressive. So I did give them, a lot of praise for that. They also did lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves, but Timberwolves are probably the hottest team in basketball right now, so can't really fault them for that. Then we got the Sacramento Kings, had a 1-2 week. They moved down. Actually, they stay in the same spot here at number 16. Lost to the Warriors and Suns, but they beat the Memphis Grizzlies. 15, we do have the Phoenix Suns staying in the exact same spot. They went 2-2, still the 11 seed, but they are closing in on that gap with the 10 seeded Mavericks. They lost to the Rockets and Lakers this week and beat the Kings and the Raptors. Number 14 is the Detroit Pistons. They're the 6th seed right now, moving down just one spot here after a 2-2 week. This week for the Pistons, they beat the Wizards and the Pelicans, but they also lost to the Wizards and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 13, we find the Indiana Pacers moving just one spot up ahead of the Detroit Pistons. They went 3-1 this week, so pretty good for them. They beat the Bucks, Sixers, Timberwolves, and lost to the Bucks as well. And then number 12 is the Milwaukee Bucks. They split with the Pacers, like I just said, this week, so I didn't really want to drop them below the Pacers for splitting with them. And they also beat the Lakers and lost to the Thunder. Number 11 is the New York Knicks, moving down just one spot. They had a 2-1 week. Not bad. They beat the Blazers and the Heat and had a 3-point loss to the Warriors. Number 10 is going to be the Los Angeles Clippers. They've been playing really well. Had a 3-1 week. Still the 8th seed there in the West, but they are looking pretty good in my opinion right now. They got Norman Powell and Ben Simmons back from injury, so that should definitely help them make a push here in the last few weeks or last month or so of the regular season. They lost to the Pelicans, but then they beat the Heat, the Hawks, and the Hornets. Number 9 is the Memphis Grizzlies. They move, they're staying in the exact same spot after a 2-2 week. 4 seed right now in the Western Conference. They beat the Jazz and the Heat, but they lost to the Cavs and the Kings. Then we got the Los Angeles Lakers at number 8. They did get Jackson Hayes back from injury, which obviously helps their center position a lot. But LeBron James still going to be out for at least probably all of this week, which obviously has been a hindrance to them. They fall down from the 2 seed a couple weeks ago to now being the 5 seed, but not too bad. They had 2-2 this week, losing to the Bucks and Nuggets, and they beat the Suns and the Spurs. Next up is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Had a 3-1 week, so they did have like 7 or 8 straight wins. Ended up losing the last game of this week in overtime to the Pacers by 2 points, but they also did beat the Nuggets, Magic, and Jazz. Number 6 is the Golden State Warriors. They had a 2-1 week. They like the Timberwolves, they were on like a 7 or 8 game winning streak, but they did end up losing the last game of the week to the Denver Nuggets, and they beat the Kings and the Knicks this week. Number 5 is going to be that Denver Nuggets team. So they beat the good Warriors team, right? They beat a good Lakers team, and then lost to the Wizards and the Timberwolves. So I do move them down just one spot, mostly because that Wizards loss is pretty bad. Even if the Nuggets weren't at full strength, still not a good loss to have on your record. Number 4 is going to be the Houston Rockets. They won 4 in a row this week. They won 7 straight overall. They're now the 2 seed, so obviously things are looking really good for Houston as of right now. They got Fred VanVleet back from injury, and it has really helped them out here. Beat the Suns, beat the Mavs, beat the Bulls, and beat the Sixers. Number 3 is going to be the Boston Celtics. They went 2-1 this week. I couldn't really drop them at all. Their one loss was against Oklahoma City Thunder, so yeah, you can't really fault them for that. And they did beat the Heat and the Nets. And then number 2 is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. They went 3-0 this week. Still the second best record in basketball. They beat the Celtics, Pistons, and Bucks this week. And then number 1, of course, is still the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know they lost this week, but it was a 5-point loss to Magic when Evan Mobley did not play. And they still have won 16 of their last 17 games. That was their first loss since the All-Star break. So I'm not going to, really fault them too much for losing one game in the last, month and a half almost. So really good month for the Cavs, good winning streak. It'd be interesting to see if they can go on another big winning streak here and get to that 70 games. They can only lose one more game if they want to win 70. If they want to win 70 games, but they're very capable of going on another 14-game winning streak. And again, they don't necessarily need to. They can go on a 7-game winning streak, lose one, and go on another 7-game winning streak, which is very, very possible for this Cavaliers team. But moving on from there, we have our award races. I'll get out of your way here a little bit. But I'll just talk about the top player on each list. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is leading MVP. Ken Cunningham is leading most improved. Jalen Brunson is leading clutch player of the year. Stephon Castle is leading rookie of the year. Peyton Pritchard is leading sixth man of the year. Kenny Atkinson is leading coach of the year. And Evan Mobley is leading defensive player of the year. But I do have one more thing to note here. We're going to look at the NBA standings. I'll get out of your way it might be a little bit blurry here, but if you can see this, the Cavs basically locked up the 1 seed, Celtics locked up the 2 seed pretty much, and Knicks pretty much locked up that 3 seed. But the 4, 5, and 6 seed between the Bucks, Pacers, and Pistons is all within 1 game, so that's going to be a good race to watch. The Hawks and Magic look like they're going to be fighting for that 7 seed, and then the Bulls and Heat look like they're going to be fighting for that 9 seed. They shouldn't really have much problem with the Raptors down there, but the Heat are on an 8-game losing streak, so if that continues, they could be in jeopardy of losing their play-in spot. Now in the Western Conference, we've got the Thunder pretty much locked up that 1 seed. From the Houston Rockets to the Memphis Grizzlies at the 5 seed, they are all within just 1 game. So that's going to be a very important race to kind of watch here in the Western Conference. Also, the Warriors, Timberwolves, and Clippers for that 6, 7, 8 seed are all within like one game or so as well. So pretty important matchups to watch, or I guess battles to watch there. And then the Suns, of course, being only 1 game behind Dallas Mavericks for that last play-in spot. Very, very important race to watch. But that's going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check back next week for an updated power rankings list, and goodbye.